Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. You know, we like to get into the really interesting stuff. Today, we're diving into something that's on a lot of people's minds, I think especially tech-minded folks. It's all this talk about 5G and how it's going to change things. Specifically, how is 5G going to change the world of cloud computing?
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is. You know, it seems like every day there's a new headline about 5G in the cloud, and it's hard to tell what's real and what's hype, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Luckily, you sent over some really interesting stuff, an article about how 5G will impact cloud computing, plus some fascinating excerpts about OpenStack.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to use those to cut through all the noise and try to get to the bottom of it all. Is this all hype, or is this actually the start of a major shift in how we use technology?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of misconceptions out there. Like, one of the big ones is that 5G is going to kill public clouds, like completely make them obsolete.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard that too. The cloud is dead. Long live 5G.
Right.
Yeah.
But the article we're looking at actually suggests the opposite. It argues that 5G will actually benefit public clouds in a lot of ways.
Okay, that's interesting. So if 5G isn't the cloud apocalypse, what's the real story here? What does it actually do for public clouds?
One of the key things the article highlights is that 5G could help expand the reach of public clouds to places that haven't had great access before. Like, think about rural areas, or developing regions. A lot of these places haven't been able to fully utilize cloud computing because their internet access is just not good enough.
Right.
The bandwidth is too low, latency is too high, it's just not practical. But 5G has the potential to change that.
So wait, how does that work? I get that 5G is faster, but how does that translate to better cloud access in places with bad internet? It's like magic.
Well, okay, think of it this way. 5G, because it have higher bandwidth and lower latency, allows for more data to be transferred a lot quicker and more efficiently. So even in areas with pretty limited traditional internet infrastructure, like not great cable or fiber optics, businesses could still access these cloud-based applications and services almost in real time. It'd be as if they were in a big city with, amazing internet connections.
Wow, that's incredible. So what you're saying is that 5G could actually be a way to bridge the digital divide. Give everyone equal access to the cloud regardless of where they are.
Exactly. And that's just one of the ways 5G can impact the cloud. Another really important point that the article raises is how 5G can help address some of the concerns around data security in the cloud.
Okay, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of companies, they're hesitant to go all in on the cloud because they're worried about keeping their data secure.
Right.
So how does 5G solve that? Does it mean companies will have to choose between speed and security?
No, not at all. Actually, the article suggests that 5G's low latency could make it possible for companies to kind of have it both ways, like a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
They could keep all their sensitive data on their own servers, on premise, but still use the cloud for processing. So imagine you're a company, right? You have a ton of data. You need to run these complex calculations or analyze it somehow. You could send that data to the cloud to be processed super fast thanks to 5G. Get your results back almost instantly, but your actual data never leaves your own servers.
Oh, that's so smart. So you get the security of keeping your data close, but also the speed and power of cloud computing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having your cake and eating it too.
I like that. All thanks to 5G. It's like this super fast bridge between your own systems and the vast world of the cloud.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's like the lines between what's local and what's in the cloud, they just get blurred. This whole new way of thinking about computing.
And speaking of the evolving world of cloud computing, let's talk about OpenStack for a minute.
Okay.
You sent me some info on its history, how it came about, how it's developed, and wow, it's a pretty wild ride.
It really is. OpenStack is a great example of how dynamic, just constantly changing the tech world really is.
Totally.
And just to remind everyone, OpenStack is an open source cloud computing platform. It's basically a set of software tools that anyone can use to build and manage their own cloud, either private or public.
Okay.
And it all started as a joint project between, get this, NASA and Rackspace back in 2010.
Wow, NASA, huh? I did not know that. So what were they hoping to accomplish with OpenStack?
Well, their goal was pretty ambitious. They wanted to make cloud computing accessible to everyone, no matter what kind of hardware they had, no matter their budget.
So make it truly open and democratic.
Exactly. And because it was open source, anyone could contribute to it. Anyone could use it. And in the beginning, there was a ton of excitement. Hundreds of companies jumped on board. And for a while, it really looked like OpenStack was going to be a major force in the world of cloud computing.
So what happened?
Well, things took a bit of a turn. According to some sources we have, NASA actually ended up moving away from OpenStack and started using Amazon Web Services instead.
Wait, really? NASA, the organization that put a man on the moon, decided to ditch their own open source platform and use AWS.
Yep. It seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Yeah. But that's exactly what happened. Apparently, there was a NASA audit back in 2013. They found that OpenStack wasn't developing fast enough to keep up with their needs.
Interesting.
And for them, it actually made more sense to just go with a public cloud service like AWS.
So even NASA, with all their resources and expertise, found that running an open source cloud platform like OpenStack had its own set of challenges. It makes you wonder if open source is always the best solution, or if there are times when a public cloud is just a better fit.
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's like you have to weigh the pros and cons, right? You want the flexibility and control of open source, but then you also have to deal with all the, the complexity and the need for specialized knowledge.
Right. With OpenStack, you have a ton of flexibility. You can customize it to fit your exact needs, and you don't get stuck with just one vendor. But all that customization, that comes with a cost. You need a team that can handle installing it, maintaining it, updating it, troubleshooting when things go wrong.
So it's not as simple as downloading some software and boom, you have your own cloud.
Not exactly. Yeah. It takes a serious commitment in terms of, technical resources, people who really know what they're doing. And for an organization like NASA, their focus is on space exploration, pushing the boundaries of science and technology. For them to pour all their resources to managing their own cloud, it might not be the best use of their time and money.
I can see that. It's about priorities. For NASA, focusing on their missions and letting someone else like AWS handle the cloud stuff, that probably makes way more sense. But it's interesting though, right? Because this whole situation with NASA and OpenStack, it kind of goes against the initial hype around OpenStack. It was supposed to be the solution for everyone, but even a tech giant like NASA found it tough to manage.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It shows that there's no one perfect solution when it comes to cloud computing. What works for one organization might be a total disaster for another.
So what's the lesson here? What can we learn from OpenStack's journey as we, head into this new world of 5G and the cloud? Is there a chance we could see the same thing happen with new technologies that rely on 5G?
Yeah, that's a totally valid concern. The excitement around 5G and how it can be used with the cloud, it's huge. But we need to remember what happened with OpenStack. Just because something is really powerful and promising doesn't automatically mean it's going to be easy for everyone to use.
Right. And we just saw that even open source stuff can be really complex, and you need a lot of expertise to manage it properly.
Exactly. It's really important to think carefully about what your organization needs. Like, really weigh the pros and cons of different approaches. Don't just jump into a new technology without thinking it through, especially one as big as 5G.
Okay, so as we look ahead to this future of cloud computing with 5G, should we be a little cautious, even with all the excitement and potential?
I think it's always smart to be a little cautious. Approach new tech with a healthy dose of skepticism, But that doesn't mean we should be afraid of the possibilities. 5G has the potential to revolutionize how we use and interact with the cloud. A really exciting time to be following all this.
Absolutely. It's constantly changing and evolving, and sure, there might be some bumps along the way, but the potential benefits are huge. It's all about finding that balance between innovation and what's actually practical, being excited about new things, but also understanding the challenges.
I agree. And it's through discussions like this, informed discussions, that we can really understand these challenges and make good decisions about how to use these technologies in the best possible way.
Right, informed discussions. And speaking of which, let's bring it back to 5G and the cloud. We talked about how 5G can expand the reach of the cloud, help with data security, even blur the lines between local and cloud-based processing. But some people are saying that 5G could lead to more decentralized cloud solutions, which could actually challenge the big public clouds like AWS. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really interesting perspective, and it's definitely something that people are looking into. The idea is that with 5G's low latency and high bandwidth, we can see the rise of what's called edge computing. That's where you're processing and storing data closer to where it's actually being generated instead of sending it all the way to these huge data centers.
So instead of everything going through these giant public clouds, we could start to see smaller, more localized data centers that are closer to the users and devices.
Yeah, exactly. That could lead to a much more distributed cloud ecosystem where you have all these different types of clouds working together, each serving a specific purpose. Public clouds would still be important, especially for storing and processing really large amounts of data. But edge computing could handle things that need super low latency, like analyzing data in real time or controlling things like self-driving cars.
That makes sense. So 5G could lead to a more diverse and dynamic cloud landscape, with different types of clouds all working together to create a more efficient and responsive system overall.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's a really exciting time to be working with cloud computing, and 5G is going to be a major driver of innovation and change.
Absolutely. It's a story that's still being written, and I, for one, can't wait to see what happens next.
Okay, so we've talked about how 5G has this power to really shake things up in the cloud world. It can make it bigger and better and change how it all works. And we've also learned a bit from OpenStack's story that new technology, it always comes with its own set of challenges. But what does this all mean for our listeners? What's the takeaway here?
Well, I think the big thing to remember is that 5G isn't just about, downloading movies faster on your phone.
Right.
It's way more than that. It's a fundamental technology that's going to have a huge impact on tons of different industries. And cloud computing, that's right at the center of it all.
And it's not just little improvements here and there, right? This sounds like this could completely change the way businesses do things, how they handle their data, even where that data is processed. Yeah, for sure. If you're involved in technology at all, or if you're, thinking about business strategy, you really need to understand what 5G and the cloud mean for the future. I mean, we've just scratched the surface here, but hopefully this has given everyone a good starting point.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe a first step is to just get rid of the idea that 5G is going to kill the cloud. Actually, it seems like it's more likely to help the cloud grow and become even more innovative.
I totally agree. And as these 5G networks, as they become more widespread and more sophisticated, we're going to see even more cool stuff happening, like with edge computing and the Internet of Things.
Yeah, those are two things we've mentioned a couple of times, but we haven't really explained what they are. For those listening who might not be familiar, can you break those down for us?
Of course. So edge computing, like we touched on before, it's all about moving the processing and storage of data closer to where that data is actually being generated. So instead of everything having to go through these massive data centers that are, who knows where, edge computing uses these smaller data centers that are closer to the action. And this is really important for things that need super fast response times, like self-driving cars or, augmented reality stuff.
So imagine a self-driving car. It needs to make decisions in a split second based on what its sensors are telling it.
Right.
It wouldn't make sense to send all that data to a data center miles away and wait for a response.
No.
With edge computing, the car can make those decisions right there on the spot. It's way more efficient and responsive.
Exactly. And that brings us to the Internet of Things, IoT. That's basically all the devices, appliances, cars, even buildings that are connected to the internet and can share data. Think about smart home devices, fitness trackers, all that stuff. As we get more and more of these IoT devices, edge computing is going to be even more important to handle all that data quickly and efficiently.
So 5G, edge computing, the Internet of Things, they're all connected. Each one plays a really important role in shaping how we're going to live and work in the future. It's a lot to think about, but it's also pretty amazing when you think about the possibilities.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why it's so important to stay informed and keep learning about all this stuff. What we talked about today, it's just the beginning.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. We've covered a ton of ground, but really this conversation is just getting started. 5G is going to keep changing and evolving, and it's up to all of us to keep learning and asking questions and exploring what it all means.
Totally agree. And who knows, maybe we'll have to do another deep dive on this topic down the road and see how things have changed.
Sounds like a plan. Until then, keep diving deep and stay curious, everyone.